So you Democrats, you've been in that party a long time. Answer me, what did you get? You got a president. He's worried about his legacy. Well, you want Hillary to get in to protect your legacy because Trump said the minute he get in, he's going to reverse the Affordable Care Act. Because that's your signature achievement. To show you how hateful the enemy is, he hates that you achieved what you did achieve. So he said, I'm going to tear it up when I get in. So he don't want his legacy destroyed. Mr. President, let the man do if he get in what he wants. Because he's not destroying your legacy. If your legacy is bound up in an Affordable Care Act that only affects a few million people and they're trying to make it really difficult for those of us who signed up, that's not your legacy. But I just want to tell you, Mr. President, you from Chicago and so am I. I go out in the street with the people. I visited the worst neighborhoods. I talked to the gangs. And while I was out there talking to them, they said, you know, Farrakhan, the president ain't never come. Could you get him to come and look after us? There's your legacy, Mr. President. It's in the street with your suffering people, Mr. President. And if you can't go and see about them, then don't worry about your legacy. Because the white people that you've served so well, they'll preserve your legacy. The hell they will. But you didn't earn your legacy with us. We put you there. You fought for the rights of gay people. You fought for the rights of this people and that people. You fight for Israel. Your people are suffering and dying in the streets. That's where your legacy is. And you failed to do what should have been done. But it's never too late. You, like Jimmy Carter, can be a better president after you leave the restrictions of your White House.
Donald Trump last week went to Milwaukee because of the rioting behind a police shooting of a young African-American male by a black officer. And the city was being burned down in certain parts of the black community by protesters. So Donald Trump decided to go to Milwaukee and speak about the conditions of America and why he felt black people should vote for him. He even went on to lay out reasons why he felt we should. Let me say this to the brothers and sisters who listened and watched that speech. We may not like the vessel that said what he said, but I ask us to truly examine what he said, because it is a fact that for 54 years, we have been voting for the Democratic Party like no other race in America. And they have not given us the same loyalty and love that we have given them. We as black people have to re-examine the relationship.
I agree.
Where we're being pimped like prostitutes. And they're the big pimps pimping us politically, promising us everything, and we get nothing in return. We got to step back now as black people and say we got to look at all the parties and vote our best interests.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more, Quidel. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think what's going on, I know what's going on, is you take your CNNs, you take your NBC, CBS, ABC, and to a certain degree, every once in a while, the network that I won't mention because we're on it right now, they seem to have this opinion that Donald Trump is a horrific individual and he can't do anything right. And they're nervous, I think, that he may come in and start doing things the right way. And you know what? He does, I believe, is the man that is going to move things in the right direction. Look, things that come out of his mouth and the way he says things sometimes, I think, to myself, and I shake my head, goodness gracious. But you're right.
He spoke directly to black people.
Right.
And I want to say and encourage your brothers and sisters, Barack Obama, our president, served 2 terms. The first black president ever. But did our condition get better? Did financially, politically, academically, with education in our community, did things get better? Are our young people working more than what it was before they came into office?
They got worse.
The condition got worse.
Right.
So now we as black people have to do and remember what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. No politician can save the black community. We got to do it ourselves.
And you know what? The 6 years that you and I have been doing this, we have come together. And
many people are angry in this country, in particular a lot of whites, because they say the Black Lives Matter movement has released a manifesto of the list of demands of what they want and what they believe. And in that list of demands of what they want, they list reparations, they list educational reform, healthcare reform. Those things to me are great things, and I think it's wonderful that they put something in writing to put before the world of what they really want and what's in the best interest of this nation in regards to black people. But why are they angry about reparations, Ms. Box? Why would whites have a problem with reparations going to black people when they paid them to the Japanese Americans who were put in internment camps during the war with Japan? They paid it to the Indian brothers and sisters who they gave casinos on their reservations. They even helped the Jewish people get it from Nazi Germany and what happened to them in the Holocaust. So if you helped everybody else, you got a problem with helping those you kept enslaved for over 300 and something years in this nation, black people?
Okay, so take it down a notch. So in 2008, Congress actually passed a resolution that apologized for slavery. Blanket apology. But race hustlers, like in the Black Lives Matter movement, like Jesse, like Al, like ex-Barack Obama, the ultimate race hustler, they don't want things to change. They like the angst. They like things being ginned up. In the past 7.5 years, race relations have dramatically gotten worse in this country because of this leadership. And the bottom line is Black Lives Matter, DeRay McKeeson with his stay woke, looking like he's Jesus Christ being crucified. Give me a break. They are getting rich off the backs of leftists and off the backs of the black community.
Ms. Box, let me say this to you. We as black people don't need an apology in this nation. What we need is what was promised to us. They promised us after slavery 40 acres and a mule. We never got it.
That's actually not true.
No, we were promised that.
And you know,
hold on, one second. But we were promised that, and we never got it. So that promise went unfulfilled to this very day. You cannot do that for others in the form of reparations and ignore the sacrifice and the suffering that black people made in this nation to make America what it is and say that we don't deserve it. That is racism.
Okay, listen to me very carefully. After the Civil War, President Jackson was the one that basically poo-pooed everything.
And he was a damn slave owner.
And he was a Democrat.
And Jackson was a slave owner.
So I didn't talk over you, don't talk over me. What the Democrat Party has done is re-enslave the black community. All those things that Black Lives Matter are about, except reparations, which is absolute ridiculousness, it's not going to happen. Education, healthcare, housing, all these things.
Ms. Box,
these are all urban problems that are in the hands of Democrats.
Slavery never ended in America.
That is, okay.
It never ended. Let me say this. Physical bondage ended, but political slavery, financial slavery, educational slavery, healthcare slavery, all of that never ended to this day in America for black people.
When are race hustlers going to stop and say, okay, we're not in chains anymore. America welcomes us. This is a land of opportunity.
Excuse me. We will say that with the same day you all write that check to black people called reparations for what we deserve. You wrote it to others. You sure as hell should write it to us.
All reparations is redistribution of wealth, another liberal scheme.
But you're only redistributing what you stole.
Okay.
So what's wrong with sharing and giving back for what you stole?
You know what? I want you to talk to black people who have successfully gotten out of the bondage, as you call it, and you call them slaves.
A few select Negroes does not represent the suffering masses who are still there.
They're all Uncle Toms. No, Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. They continue to prove it.
And they've killed nobody. That's crazy as hell.
They're right.
Alveda King, niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I greet you today, and I just want to share with you a little bit about my family and my history. My uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., during his lifetime, was a Republican. as was my father, his brother, Reverend A.D. King, and my grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. The Republican Party historically has supported the rights of the oppressed. During the times of slavery, many of the abolitionists were Republicans. Today, we have another issue that is affecting the lives and freedom of many of Americans. Those are the little babies, the preborn. And so as the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I want to encourage you today to remember the rights of all people, from the womb to the tomb. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. King also said that the Negro cannot win if he's willing to sacrifice the futures of his children for immediate personal comfort and safety. And so today I encourage you, as you make very important decisions on whom you will vote for, to remember to vote for your values and vote for life, liberty, and justice.
Dr. King, tell us a little bit. I know Donald Trump is out to improve the lives of every American, he says, but how has he helped the African American community?
Well, early on during his campaign, in the beginning of his term, he said that the way you deal with racism, make sure everyone is safe, has gainful employment or their own business, and they're secure, they're safe, and they are enjoying America, and that's going to bring us all together. He says no matter what your skin color is, we bleed red. We're red-blooded Americans. So in his perspective, you serve everybody the same way without bias and all of that. And so I believe that perspective, bringing jobs back to America from overseas, dropping that unemployment rate, rising the employment rate and opportunities, business opportunities and all of that for men, women, young children can get internships and things. So it's really helping America with the jobs. And that's why, Congressional Black Caucus sat down on the jobs and all of that. We need to stand up for all Americans, including African Americans.
Alveda, I saw you at the...
Hello, and welcome to another edition of All About Us. Today's topic is the Forgotten Democrat. This will no doubt be the most critical subject I've talked about since launching my YouTube channel. I'm sending this message out to blacks who still think the Democratic Party is the right place for their votes. And yeah, I know your great-grandmother always taught you to vote Democrat because allegedly Democrats cared about all people. But today, in 2018, that statement couldn't be further from the truth. But let me share a few facts with you to make this truth more digestible to those who hate hearing any criticism about their beloved Democratic Party. The 13th Amendment was created to abolish slavery. 100% of Republicans voted yes on that bill, while only 23% of Democrats voted yes. The 14th Amendment was created to give citizenship to all free slaves. 94% of Republicans voted yes on that bill, while 0% of Democrats voted yes. The 15th Amendment was created to give all Americans, black and white, the right to vote. 100% of Republicans voted yes on that bill, while 0% of Democrats voted yes. Also, in 1865, the Democratic Party created and enacted the Jim Crow laws that discriminated solely against freed black slaves. Blacks who broke those laws were fined up to $1,000 and or sentenced to 1 to 3 years in prison. Here's just a few of those evil, immoral laws. Blacks were prohibited from marrying whites. Blacks were prohibited from living in white neighborhoods. Blacks were prohibited from staying in the same house as whites. Blacks were prohibited from attending the same churches as whites. Blacks were prohibited from attending the same schools as whites. Blacks were prohibited from eating in the same restaurants as whites. Blacks were prohibited from attending the same movie theaters as whites. Blacks were prohibited from using the same public restrooms as whites. Blacks were prohibited from using the same water fountains as whites. Blacks were prohibited from riding the same public buses as whites. Blacks were prohibited from riding the same train coaches as whites. Blacks were prohibited from building schools within 1 mile of white schools. Blacks were prohibited from voting in all elections. Blacks were prohibited from playing pro sports with whites. Blacks were prohibited from owning a gun. Black inmates were not allowed to be housed in cells with white inmates. Black soldiers were prohibited from being housed with white soldiers. Blacks were prohibited from buying or drinking liquor at white bars. Black candidates who ran for office was forced to write their race on their ballots. Blacks were prohibited from using the same parks, recreational centers, and playgrounds as whites. Look, I could go on listing more of these evil laws created by the Democratic Party, but I think you get the gist. Black Democrats need to know that that same evil spirit created by the Democrats back in 1865 still lives today within the Democratic Party. Hence the reason why so few blacks have benefited from their votes in over 60 years. It's a fact that the Democratic Party don't give a damn about black people, and they prove it every year by giving nothing to blacks for their votes. However, during the late 90s, many blacks began to wake up and leave the Democratic Party to join other more viable parties. And to stop the exodus, the Democratic Party created what they call Minority Initiative to coerce blacks to come back to their party. At first, the minority initiatives did appear to cater to black needs, but soon steered their resources toward foreign immigrants, gays, lesbian, and women's. Black men were left out of the deal altogether. It soon became apparent that the Democratic Party had no desire to empower black men. So I ask you, black men, why do you continue to support the Democratic Party? Now, Democratic leaders want you to believe that only a few percentage of conservative blacks voted for Donald Trump in the 2016 election, but that is a lie. In fact, nearly 30% of blacks voted for Trump without any direct solicitation from him. Why? Because they got tired of having their votes taken for granted by the Democratic Party. For years, black men have watched the Democratic Party send their jobs overseas to fatten their pockets and the pocket of their rich bureaucrats, while leaving very few job opportunities for them to provide for their family. But why should the Democratic congressmen care about your problem? They're filthy rich, and all they want to do now is raise your taxes. So how does that benefit you, black man? Look, I'm not trying to tell you who you should vote for. I believe every American should vote for the person they feel best represent their interests and belief. So if you want to support a party that focuses solely on gays, lesbian, transgender, illegal aliens, and women's rights, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that continues to overlook the needs and aspirations of black men, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that believes in open borders that allows everyone to enter our country regardless of their criminal status, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that put the needs of illegal aliens before yours, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that plans to raise your taxes for the next 15 years, then by all means, vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that bullies their opponents and advocate public violence, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that continues to sell your country down the drain to foreign countries, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that promises one thing in public, then does another behind closed doors, then vote Democrat. If you want to support a party that doesn't have an agenda or positive message for America, then vote Democrat. And lastly, if you want to support a party that's plotting the downfall of its own country, then by all means, continue voting Democrat. And that's not to say that all Republicans are do-gooders, because many of them are just as corrupt as the Democrats and have been forced to resign from their positions. However, I must admit that I was dismayed by the misleading rhetoric of some of my brothers on YouTube. Most appear to be pushing a far left agenda and conveying information that was not always in the best interest of our people. I've viewed videos of Phil Scott of The Advice Show and Tariq Nasheed. I've also viewed videos of Boyce Watkins, Umar Johnson, Roland Martin, Montel Williams, Tavis Smiley, Don Lemon, Willie D, and Charlemagne the God, just to name a few. And I noticed that all their videos had a similar tone and message that appeared to support a Democratic agenda, with exception to Umar Johnson, who didn't appear loyal to either party, but failed to encourage blacks to demand more from the party they voted for. I couldn't understand why these intelligent brothers were encouraging blacks to continue voting for a party that had done nothing for them in decades. I'm quite sure they know of the Democratic Party's history regarding the Jim Crow laws, so their ignorance to continue supporting the Democratic Party greatly confused me. Again, I'm not telling you who you should vote for, but what I do suggest is that you pause for a moment and ask yourself, what has your political party done for you lately? Then get yourself a copy of the midterm election guide for your state and read what the candidate running for office pledges to do if elected. If their campaign agenda does not represent your views and belief and does not offer you any real benefits, then why give them your vote? Stop listening to brainwashed leaders or misleaders who tell you to vote Democrat when it's painfully obvious that the Democratic Party doesn't have blacks' best interests at heart. Because I promise you, you won't find your state candidates pledging to fight for reparation for blacks who are descendants of slaves who were murdered during the slave era in America. Nor will you find state candidates pledging to make scholarships more available for African Americans who wish to go to college. And you won't find state candidates pledging to challenge the biasness of our court and prison systems against black men. Nor will you find state candidates who promise to initiate programs to help blacks attain low-interest loans to start businesses, buy homes, or rehab their community. And lastly, you won't find state candidates who pledge to initiate laws that challenge the killing of unarmed black men by law enforcement agents. Nor will you find state candidates pledging to initiate programs that create more jobs for African Americans. Why? Because Democratic candidates don't give a damn about black people, especially black men. It's becoming apparent to black men that they are being omitted in just about every category in America, unless they're gay. Gay black men are the only ones who get ample support from the Democratic Party. However, if you are a heterosexual male seeking resources and support from the Democratic Party, I say, don't hold your breath. It's been more than 60 years since blacks switched to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has done nothing tangible for black people. As I stated earlier, black men have intentionally been omitted from the benefit list of the Democratic Party, and I don't see that trend changing anytime soon. So in closing, I'd just like to say that I hope all African Americans start holding their political parties accountable by demanding reciprocity for their votes. For no one should be giving their votes away blindly to a party that does absolutely nothing for them and their race. Look, I thank you for watching my video, and I encourage you to stay calm, vigilant, and safe during the midterm election. God bless.
Saw you at the White House yesterday for Black History Month as the president presided over the festivities. I'm sure you've got friends, though, who say, Alveda, we know you, we like you. Why do you like Donald Trump? We just don't get it.
All over Twitter, Facebook, and I hear all these kind of comments, a little sad faces popping across, but a lot of happy faces and thumbs up too. So I just like him because he keeps his promises. He says we're going to stop, aborting babies is not good, not having jobs for everybody is not good, Americans are dreamers too. All of those things I happen to agree with. Is he a perfect man? There are no perfect men or women. I'm not perfect, but he keeps his promises. His heart